Good morning. Good morning. Hey, I'm glad to be back once again. Another day, another live stream. It seems to become quite of a habit, right? No, I appreciate being here. I appreciate you being here. Say hello in the comments. And what are you working on today? I'm curious about that. We're gonna talk about an RFC today. That's what I wanted to do. So a little break from Tempest, although we might actually get into some Tempest code as well. I don't know where the stream will lead us. We'll see, right? But I wanted to look at an RFC because it's a pretty interesting one, and I want to talk about it, and I want to hear your opinions about it, and I hope that it will pass in the future. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. Let me share my screen here and say good morning, Samuel and Tiago and Mike as well. Glad you're here. I'm still coughing. I'm still the same as you'll notice, but it's all fine. I wanted to talk about property hooks. And in case you don't know this website here, this is RFC Vote. It's a project that we've built on Stream as well. It's open source and written in Laravel, not Tempest. Mm, but it's a pretty cool project. It's in production now, and there are still things to do, but it's a bit of a quieter phase, you could say. Um, when it comes to development, right? And I should say also when it comes to RFCs, because yeah, I don't know, there aren't that many like huge RFCs in PHP 8.2, and there haven't been any big ones for 8.3 either. Probably property hooks is the biggest one. And I'm saying 8.2 and 8.3, but I'm actually talking about 8.4 here because we're talking about the next PHP version, right? Hey, good morning, by the way, Luca and Yasin. Thanks for being here. Um, yeah, I don't know how you feel about that, but uh, it feels like I don't know the RFCs that we've seen for the past two releases have been okay, but nothing truly spectacular. And maybe that's a good sign as well, for PHP that it's becoming more stable, or that we're not working, we're in like minor version land at the moment. So maybe there are huge things coming up in the future when PHP 9 is being worked on. But that's definitely not the case because, as far as I know, PHP 8.4 is the next version, which is also a minor one. It's okay, lots of small improvements all over the board. I don't mind that. Actually, I learned something new today. Let me take a look at my tweet here that I sent about it. So what you can do, and this is new since PHP 8.2, I think. I'm not sure. You can like alias make constant aliases of enums, which in this case for Tempest was pretty useful because you want to be able to write IP version 4, IP version 6. I like the way this looks, but you want it to be an enum underlying, but IP is already a class that's used for validation. Anyways, you can assign enum values to constants on another class, and then you can use those as aliases. And I really like that approach. You can write IPv4 instead of IP version v4. That's something I learned today, and I think that was added in PHP 8.2 or 8.1. I can't remember. Something with constant expressions changing. So yeah, it's those small changes. You might not notice like benefit from them right away, but in the end, you're happy that that it got changed. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Property hooks. Let's talk about property hooks. Um, this is an interesting RFC, and this is RFC vote where the community discusses the RFC, and there, as you can see from the votes here, it's yeah, people are very divided about it. I'm in the yes side for this one, and I'll try to explain why. But a lot of people don't really see the point in adding it, and I also understand those. Um, those arguments. So we're gonna go through it, read the RFC a little bit, read arguments pro and con, and discuss it. Maybe let's first start with a little note here in on externals. This was sent by Larry, one of the authors of the RFC, that it actually got delayed. It should have been voted on for PHP 8.3, but then things happened, and now they're pushing it to PHP 8.4. I actually don't know when they start voting on it. The RFC itself seems like ready, and lots of people gave feedback on it, and they went through different iterations of it. So it's very much fleshed out. You can see it already. It got proposed for the first time in December 2022. So this has been going on for quite a while. And I should say that Ilya and Larry, who are working on this, these are super great internal developers. Ilya is working for the foundation, Larry is not, but they've done a couple of RFCs together. Enums is probably the biggest one. And yeah, they're making some cool things here. So when you see these names, you can be pretty sure that this is a serious RFC, right? They've thought things through. So I really like that. So let's talk about property hooks. Actually, this is a short summary, but we'll read through part of the RFC together as well. So developers often use methods to wrap and guard access to object properties, right? And these are several highly common patterns. There are several highly common methods for such logic, which in practice may be verbose to implement repeatedly. And I've run into this. So where am I here? Oh, let's actually open Tempest. So a pattern I really like to use, and this is available, well, we use this all throughout Tempest actually, are, data objects. Objects that have data, but don't really provide like additional functionality. They represent data in a typed way. You can statically check them, and that's it. That's their goal. They can have methods on them, like for example getting computed properties or stuff like that, but they aren't like they don't perform any actions, and for me that's a mental model that I really like, to split these two concerns into different classes. On the one hand, we have data objects. Other languages have structs, right, or stuff like that. We don't have that, so we put everything in classes, but we have data objects, and then we have classes that do something with those objects. And so what the RFC is is telling us is that indeed there are a lot of there is a lot of times where you have these properties and you want to prevent things going wrong with them, right? I'm trying to think of what is a good example here. Maybe I should just go in my app folder and show model or something. Modules, books, and book model here. So this is a data object, right? A Tempest data object, but this is a class with properties, and they in this case maybe model isn't the perfect example, because like this model trait, it adds some functionality, but in essence a model is a representation of some data in your application. And so you end up with these properties. Let's not focus too much on which model patterns we're applying here, but we have these properties. And since with modern PHP versions, people, or at least I know a couple of other people who do it as well, we prefer to just ditch all the getters and setters, we just make public properties, and in many cases we make them read-only, so that we know that once you've constructed an object, like the data cannot change anymore. If you want to change data, you'll have to make methods that clone the object, which is one of the reasons why I would really like a clone with method, like syntax in PHP, but that's a topic for another day. Anyway, public read-only properties, I really like them. They get rid of so much boilerplate. I think I have a blog post here as well, the evolution of PHP here. I made a video about it as well. Look at how much code we had to write for such a rather simple class here, block data. I call it. What a weird name in hindsight. But if we wanted to be sure in the past that our objects couldn't change from the outside without our permission, basically, we had to do something like this. Private property. We had to like set them in a constructor, had to provide getters so that we could actually get the data and read it from the object. But throughout the years, PHP added more and more syntax regarding type system. We could remove some type checks there. And then slowly but surely, PHP 8, I think, added constructor property promotion, putting everything in the constructor instead of having to repeat your property definitions and assignments. That was very nice. And then we got read-only in 8.1. That made it even an even bigger impact because you could get rid of all your getters, right? If you only set the state once during construction, then you can read that data afterwards. Thanks to like making the property read-only, you're sure that it won't be able to change anymore. And then we got read-only classes, and when you look at this, right? When you look at this and would compare it to something like a struct, I don't know, in Rust, I actually don't know, Rust struct. So how it would look something like this. I would love to have this in PHP. Anyway, so, title is a string, and then we have state is a state, another struct, of course, and then we have published at. I don't know Rust, so it is just date, time, immutable, or null. There might be some syntax errors here, but you get the gist. Like, this is we're getting there, right? There is still a little bit of overhead in PHP, but if you compare it to what it used to be at the very beginning, like at the very beginning 10 years ago, right? This is code from 10 years ago. It's not that old. Look at what we had to write to achieve the same, and I really like that. So that's just to say that this pattern is getting more and more popular, and like properties, class properties in themselves are becoming more valuable to use, and that's what this RFC is trying to do here. It also mentions that if you don't want any like overhead or boilerplate, and if you just rely on read-only properties, there are some edge cases where it's not really convenient. So some people they resolve to get magic getters and setters, right? A common example is for Laravel models, for example, like get and set intercepts reads and writes generically, but it is a sledgehammer approach that intercepts all undefined and some defined. I don't know which defined properties it would intercept. But I mean, I think all of us agree, like get and set is a very like heavy approach to something that might be solved differently. And that's what this RFC is trying to do. So this is the syntax it's proposing. So you have a property, and if you want to, you don't need to do this. You can provide like this special syntax for it, like the set syntax and the get syntax. And I'm actually going to the RFC now because there are a bit more examples here. Let's scroll a bit down. Oh yeah, this is the example of like implementing get and set. This is a mess, right? So here's the setter example, but let's actually scroll a bit further down. Oh yeah, here is getter and setter. So basically, what this RFC proposes is that you don't have any like get and set methods anymore, but you have these special property hooks, getters and setters, and there might actually be other property hooks in the future. So, and whenever you write user full name, and when it has a get hook, I think that's the right term here, it will actually return this. It's a computed property actually, because it's the first and the last name, I guess, yeah, combined together. But from the outside, it would look like, let me write this down here, it would look like just user full name, like so. And let's actually zoom in a little bit here. User full name, and that's it. So from the outside it would feel very natural, but you'd have a lot more flexibility here without having to add methods, without having to, for example, do this, which we had to do in the past, right? And then you have some inconsistencies because get full name, what about first and last? Are they accessible like this? Well, that's confusing because in one case you're using a getter, in the other cases you're using just normal properties. Will you provide getters for those as well? That's quite a lot of overhead without any like real advantage there. And so that's what I like about this RFC. Like from the outside, it makes for consistent code, and I like that. I really do. Let's check out some more comments here. Roman is here in chat. Roman is part of the PHP Foundation, so it's good to see you here, Roman. He's also my colleague. So, and let's start here. Inir is saying good morning, but also that I'm gonna start with I quite hate this syntax, and I don't know why they just didn't go with JS getter setter syntax. Well, we might actually find some answers to that in the RFC. Some off-topic question here, but are you willing to switch your blog to Tempest? You don't want to know about my blog. You really don't. It's such it's such a mess. I actually tried to rewrite it to Laravel 3 times and it failed. No, it didn't fail. It actually worked. But when I succeeded and I realized I had to like convert all content as well. So technically it worked, but I just gave up. It still works, my blog. So, but I might rewrite it one day. Okay, there's some discussion here about syntax, right? And oh, Ryan is here as well. Hey, Ryan. Ryan knows a thing or two about syntax, by the way. Ryan is writing a PHP preprocessor, PXP. What's the PHP extended preprocessor? This is what Ryan is working on. Super cool project. So yeah, he knows a thing or two about syntax. But okay, back to property hooks. So I want to read through the introduction here because it lists quite a bit of like a range of good things here that that we can consider. So bear with me. It's a bit of a book club today. I hope you don't mind. Let's dive in. Developers often use methods to wrap and guard access to object properties. There are several highly common patterns for such logic, which in practice may be verbose exactly to implement repeatedly. Alternatively, developers may use get and set to intercept reads and writes generically, but that is a sledgehammer approach that intercepts all undefined and some defined properties unconditionally. That's basically the paragraph we read before. Property hooks provide a more targeted, purpose-built tool for common property interactions. Okay, so the combination of this RFC and asymmetric visibility, which, by the way, was declined, interesting, effectively replicate and replace the previous property accessors RFC. Much of the implementation is derived from Nikita's original work. That's good to know, by the way. Nikita was already working on this in 2021. That's a long time ago. So you can see like how much time can go over making an RFC like this before it has a chance of getting accepted. We don't know that yet. There is no people haven't voted on it. So the design and syntax below is most similar to Kotlin. That's interesting. Oh yeah, getters and setters here. Let's actually take a look here. Val int, and then there's get and set. I guess Kotlin relies on like indentation here instead of curly brackets. Although it also draws influence from C# and Swift. Python and JavaScript have similar features via a different syntax. I think that was already mentioned in chat, right? Although that syntax would not be viable for PHP. Why not? I hope it will get explained. Ruby treats properties and methods as nearly the same, so achieves this functionality as a side effect. In short, property accessors are a very common feature in major mainstream programming language. That's a good point. And I really like how PHP has been getting more and more of these mainstream features added to it over the years. This is a question that sometimes gets asked on internals, like, yeah, why do we need this syntactic sugar if we can already achieve it in other ways? Well, the reason is developer experience. Developers like more convenient ways to do things, and there are other languages that that do those things better, and we should learn from them. So I think this is a good thing. A primary use case for hooks is actually is actually to not use them, but retain the ability to do so in the future should it become necessary. And this is a great point. In particular, developers often implement getFoo, setFoo methods on a property not because they are necessary, but because they might become necessary in a hypothetical future. And changing from a property to a method at that point becomes an API change. Exactly that. So that's what I meant with, this distinction here. It doesn't matter anymore if we'd have property accessors. I really like that. I really dislike that I have errors here, but let's do it like this. Okay. So like this consistency, right? It's something, I don't know about you, but as a developer, I like consistency. I like just knowing what to expect and not getting like surprised by stuff. And like, probably if you're following these streams that we're building a framework here, like this consistency is such a core part of what we're building. You want the framework or whatever code you're writing, you want it to be consistent and predictable, right? You don't want people to having to stop and wonder about, is this a property or a method? No, just keep it consistent, and that's why I really like this RFC. So by allowing most common getFoo, setFoo patterns to be attached to properties directly, such behavior can be added to a property later without an API change and without the extra boilerplate of two mostly meaningless methods for every property, just in case. So true, so true. Methods that are not just variations on getFoo, setFoo behavior, of course, are still valuable in their own right. Definitely. So this isn't a replacement for all kinds of methods. Makes sense. Considering the following class declaration, we might have been, which might have been considered, I don't know how to pronounce this word, idiomatic prior to PHP 7.4. Yeah, okay. So this is code we recognize, right? So in, oh yeah, this is the example I showed before. This is PHP 8.3. Cool, right? Anyway, it is much nicer, but comes at a cost. Okay, this is important. If we later want to add additional behaviors such as validation or pre-processing, there's nowhere to do so. That currently leaves two options, and that's, so what they're saying is that because we're using property promotion, you're relying on the property itself, and there's nothing you can do, but we already know this RFC fixes that. So, okay, two solutions for that: get name, set name. We don't really want to do that. Implement get and set, which becomes a true mess. We don't want that either. So property hooks allow developers to introduce additional behavior in a way that is specific to a single property while respecting all other existing aspects of PHP and its tooling. I really love it. So in this case here, we have a property name, and it has the setter hook implemented, which means that we can do extra checks here. Like for example, if it's an empty string, we can throw a new value error. Interestingly enough, like my first thought is another solution to this particular problem would be to have a more robust type system in PHP, where you could write something like, for example, a string. Well, I actually don't know how to write it in a generic way, but or non-empty string, something like that. Like for integers, there's a better example that you can use generics for, let's say you have public int age, for example, and this should be an unsigned int, right? So you can use min should be 0 and max should be, I don't know, 100, that, for example's sake. Some languages allow this syntax, or we could have unsigned int, which also doesn't exist. But yeah, anyway, this is just a thought that's coming to my mind here, is that we have these setters, these setter hooks. If we have these setter hooks, there might still be some code duplication here, because in the next class where you can't have an empty string, you have to rewrite it. So that will be interesting to see how we deal with it. Ideally, you'd make that into a type, but there are some limitations there as well. Anyway, not to like discredit this RFC, because as you might have guessed, or yeah, I really like it. So this code introduces a new non-empty requirement, but does not change the outward syntax of reading or writing to name. Perfect. It does not hinder static analysis and does not fold multiple properties into a single hard to follow method. Nice. Similarly, using methods may also impose an extra syntax burden on callers in read and update situations. For example, so we have foo here with runs, get runs. Set runs is a setter with, you know, a condition here. With property hooks, it would be converted to this. So the setter hook in this case, we can do our conditional here, and then we can actually set the value. By the way, let's scroll up here, something I kind of ignored. So this field magic method here, this is probably one of the things people will not really like about this RFC. There's this magic field variable, which refers to like the value of this property. You needed to set the property here. So that's interesting. Compared to this, right? This is also available magically, but we're used to this, but we're not used to field. So yeah, that's an interesting implication here. Ooh, yeah, that's not properly formatted, of course. Let's actually go to the eval here, which has support for property hooks via this branch here. Oh, hey, Roman, here you are. Yeah, this field here. What if we replace it with this name? To me, that would make more sense in a way. But I also think that having to write field is just something we'll need to get used to. And I would really hate to see this RFC fail because of this field variable. On the other hand, keep in mind that if this field variable is added, like, there's no way back. It is what it is. So yeah. But I think the RFC will discuss the field value as well. Let's take a look at my at the comments here. So by the way, in here, if you're curious as to how they came to the conclusion, you can always read like the external strat here. But it's quite long, and it's not something we'll do on stream, but there is a lot of valuable information there. And you can also ask Ilya or Larry. They're very much available. So a coding session on a sick leave. Well, is that about me? I'm not on a sick leave. I'm sick, but I'm not on sick leave. Okay. Now this is an interesting idea. Why not do a return instead? Because, well, that would work for setters, but what about sorry, no, that would work for getters, but what about setters? Oh yeah, okay, so you would use the return value here to set the value. I get it. Yeah, it's a good consideration. Let's actually check whether the RFC contains it, but it's a very long RFC. I don't know if we'll make it to the end, but it's a good. Oh yeah, And inner is saying value is also, of course, a magic property here. Yeah, it's super important to consider these details. And like I said, especially with this approach, this feels like the most heavy one. Like there's nowhere way back if we add these. Maybe there are some alternatives, but let's go through the RFC a little bit more and see where it leads us. So did we? Yeah, we did check this. Okay, with property hooks. Okay, proposal summary. Okay, now we're getting to the summary of the proposal. I thought we already did that. So the RFC introduces two hooks to override the default get and set behavior of a property. Although not included in this initial version, the design includes the ability to support more hooks in the future. That's interesting, right? See future scope below. We'll wait a bit. Taken together, they allow for a majority of common reasons to add just-in-case methods to a property to be implemented without methods, leading to shorter code and more flexibility to improve the code without a hard API break. Good, interesting, yes. There are two syntax variants supported, a full and a short, similar to closures. The examples below shows both. So, just a quick thought here. I understand what this is saying. So the short version and the long version. Like in my opinion, I would say that don't include the short version for a first RFC. Because you're adding things to the scope, and knowing PHP internals, the bigger the scope, the more difficult it is to get an RFC passed. You can add this short version later in a follow-up RFC, but maybe there's a very good reason. Yeah, okay. So by the way, full name here, the getter hook returns first and last with a space in between, and the setter hook, it actually sets first and last based on the space between, which, by the way, if you have like three surnames with 2 or 3 words, this won't work, but it's fine. Additionally, as this functionality makes it natural to use a public property as part of an API, this RFC, yes, hang on. This RFC allows interfaces to declare properties and whether they should be readable, writable, or both. This would be perfect. Something I do in Tempest a lot is to use interfaces, right? You've seen this before. Let's actually go to my interfaces. Oh yeah, let's do a search here for get. And let's zoom out a little bit because I can't read. Let's do a search for get, and hang on, regex, no, words, no, match case, no. Where? Oh, filter. No, I thought there was a way to only show interfaces here, but Roman can probably tell me. Let's actually do a quick search on whether we can find something. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. The request interface. Yeah, request interface. This. Perfect. Like these getters here. I need to use getters because I want the request interface to define what data is available here. Requests in Tempest, they are just data objects, right? They don't have any functionality. But you need to provide methods because you can't define anything else in the interface. So how I would love to just be able to do this in my interface. How amazing would that be? So, and if that was here, it would mean that everything that implements interface should have a public property that is a string with a method that is a method enum and has a getter implemented for it. How amazing would that be? That's the dream here. It would get rid of so much boilerplate because, like, in the interface, it doesn't look like much. But let's actually look at some implementations here. Get method. Oh yeah, it just returns the method, right? Which I also made public because I want these methods, like these properties, to be public because I want this syntax and I don't really want this syntax. But if you're relying on the interface, well, there's no way of knowing which properties are on there. You still need to implement these getters, and these getters are just, see, with this is stupid. You don't want this. Imagine what would be possible if you could just write this and then say, what's the syntax get? Something like this. I don't know. So yeah, I guess this part for me is the biggest +1 on the RFC. The downside is, like I mentioned before, once again, it's another thing added to the scope and another thing that can cause the RFC to fail. So, yeah, I'm very conflicted about it. Okay, let's continue to read. Taken together, these behaviors allow for much shorter and more robust code. Yes, perfect. Okay, so the detailed proposal, we'll just continue to read for a while and we'll see when it gets boring, right? Tell me when it gets boring in chat. This RFC applies to object properties only and not static properties. Static properties are unaffected. Perfect. Yeah, makes sense. For a property to use a hook, it must replace its trailing semicolon with a block denoted by curly brackets. Inside the block are one or more hook implementations for which the order is explicitly irrelevant. Okay, it is a compile error to have an empty hook block. Cool. The get and set hooks override the PHP default read and write behavior. Makes sense. They may be implemented individually or together. Within each hook, the unfiltered value of the property is available as field, right? The unfiltered value is available as field. Notice field is... Oh, yeah. So the original. Okay, got it. But isn't this a bit confusing because field is also... Yeah, you assign the value to field. Anyway, is a compile time macro that translates to this property name in the engine. So why don't we just use this property name? I wonder. I really think... I'm curious about that. The main implication of that is more esoteric variable forms, such as $var will not work with field, though they shouldn't be used anyway. Using this property name directly is supported. Oh, it is supported. Okay, but not recommended. I would love to know why not recommended, because it feels much more natural to me. Like, you don't have to do the mental conversion in your head. Interesting. If a property has at least one hook and none of them make use of field, then no backing store value will be created in the engine. This is something that Larry sometimes does. I'm pretty sure this makes sense to a lot of people, a lot of internals, but I'm not sure what this means for me. But okay, if RFCs are targeted in first place towards internals, so okay. Such properties are known as virtual properties as they have no maternalized stored value, okay. The get hook, if implemented, overrides PHP's default read behavior. We understand that. The get hook body is an arbitrary complex method body which must return a value that is type compatible with the property. Good. The example above creates a virtual property as there is at least one hook and it does not use field. Because it is virtual, there is no default set behavior and there's nowhere to save it. Thus, any attempt to write to the property will result in an error being thrown. Yeah, okay, so full name is a virtual property. It does not exist as there is, because there's no, because field is never used. Maybe that's the reason you should use field instead of this. So full name doesn't actually exist. It doesn't make sense to keep it in memory, keep a memory place, because there won't ever be anything to write into that memory. I think that's what Larry is saying here. And if people try to write something to it, an error is being thrown. Okay, good. The following example does make use of field, however, and thus a backing value will be created and write operations will simply write to the property as normal. Okay, yeah. So writing to name here, it doesn't have a set hook, so it will just use PHP's default write behavior. It does have a get hook, which uses field, which, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I do wonder, so let's do this. So what happens if we do this? Okay, so loud equals new loud. Right. And then loud. There's no setter hook, so it will just work as expected. Name equals Brent. And then we dump out, ooh, I can't write, loud load name. What happens? Okay, so this works. Okay. Even though we don't. So the way I read the RFC was that if you're not using field here, it wouldn't assign any memory for it. And you couldn't write to it, but you can. So in that case, I would much more prefer to use this than field. Let's eval it again. It does the same. Okay, that's interesting. Good. So set, this set hook, if implemented, overrides PHP's default write behavior. Sorry. Okay, we've seen this example before, right? The set hook body is an arbitrarily complex method body which accepts one argument. The argument is, oh yeah, so value is passed here. So actually value isn't really a magical value. It's passed in here. Yeah. Specifying the argument name is optional. If not specified, oh, okay, oh. So, set var dump value field equals value, okay? So I've got syntax error, should do it. Okay. So this is my var dump here. Okay. What if you provide empty brackets? Must accept exactly one parameter. You can provide value here, and you can override it to whatever you want. Eval. Okay, so you can use this as a way to have another variable name here, but it will always be one value and nothing else. So, okay, I'm not against it, but it also feels a bit complex, right? You have 3 ways to do essentially the same thing, and all for just being able to rename this value. I don't know. I don't think that's really necessary. And again, it makes the RFC a bit more complex and less likely to succeed. So the above example creates a virtual property as there is no, where am I? Yeah. Okay. As there is no get hook, no read information from full name is allowed and will throw an error. But is okay. So if I provide a set hook and no get hook, nah, that's weird. Yeah, okay. So why? So the other way around it worked, right? So only with get, without a set hook, I could still set my my value here, but the other way around doesn't work. Undefined variable, yeah. So that's a bit weird to me. That's unintuitive, especially like if you don't need to do anything with the getter, you'll still need to. Does this work? Right, you'll still need to return this name or this field. Why doesn't that work? What did I do differently? Undefined variable name on line 13. Ah, I'm totally stupid. So this works. I should read my errors. Line 5. Cannot assign null to property. This is a weird error, right? This is work in progress, of course. So hang on. I broke it. Hang on. Let's command Z. Okay, this worked, right? This worked. Okay. So, okay, this works. Now the other way around. Okay, it works. It works totally fine. Perfect. Yeah, I know what I did wrong. I had name here. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm happy that this works. And I don't understand why the RFC says it won't work. Maybe it's just outdated. I don't know. The following example creates a stored property and thus read actions will proceed as normal. Oh, no. Oh, because I'm using field here, maybe. Let's actually... So we have a set and we don't implement get. Okay, that's fine. But we use field here. What if we don't use field? What if we say this name? Then it still works. Okay. I don't know. Okay, we expect this. Alternatively, the following example creates a stored property and thus read actions will proceed as normal. Yeah, okay. Okay. We expect this validate on set use case to be particularly common. Exactly. Yeah, I think so as well. A set hook may optionally declare an argument type that is contravariant from the type of the property. That allows the set body to accept a more permissive set of values. The type of the value returned by get must still conform to the declared type. Yeah. That allows, for example, behavior like this. Oh, you can type in this. Yeah, okay, so it's saying that you can accept anything here. Well, not anything, contravariance, but like a wider type of string, I guess. Or as the value, let's actually see here. A wider type of Unicode string. I don't know if that would work in PHP's current type system anyway. Because string can be converted to Unicode string, right? So we can, it's fine to type in this here because the type system in theory guarantees that string, well, is a wider type of Unicode string. But I don't understand like how string, you can't extend from string, so I don't understand, yeah, how that works. Let's take a look at the comments once again. If you have this inside a set hook, shouldn't this conceptually cause a loop? Accepting wider types is very useful for decomposing complex types. Yeah, definitely. Shouldn't it cause a loop? Right, I guess not, because they will check for that edge case, I guess. So you're setting name here, which in turn would call set again, but I guess, well, we know that the code is smart enough to actually detect that we're in a property hook and won't call recursively the property hook again. Yeah, okay, this is what we talked about. Although it is not often used, the equal assignment operator is an expression that returns a value. The value returned is already hang on a second. Although it is not often used, the equal assignment operator is an expression that returns a value. The value returned is already slightly inconsistent, however. In the case of type properties, that is the value the property holds after the assignment, which may include type coercion. For the property assignment that triggers set, there is no reasonable defined value the property holds, so the value returned is always the right-hand side of the expression. The set hook has the same behavior as set for the same reason. These are a bunch of words I don't understand. I'm just gonna scroll past it. Abbreviated forms. This is important as well. There are two shorthand notations supported beyond the optional argument to set. First, if a hook's body is a single expression, then the brackets and return statement may be omitted and replaced. Okay, yeah, short, like, okay. I mean, it's gonna be convenient, right? I'm not against it, but it just feels like one more possible point of failure when it comes to voting. But that means the following three examples are all semantically identical. Okay. Oh no. You can also do this. User equals new user Brent Rose vardump user full name. So this is a shorthand for this and this. Is a shorthand. Oh, what did I do? Anyway, this is a shorthand for this, right? This is exactly what I'm feeling right now. The question is whether do we really need all those possibilities? Adding just set get wouldn't be enough for the community. Do we really need? Yeah, that's what you meant. That's exactly what I'm feeling. Especially this one. I mean, I once wrote a blog post. Opinionated driven design. I don't know if there's a tagline somewhere. No, probably not. The summary of this blog post is don't offer 3 or 4 different ways to do the same thing. Just make a decision, because we talked about this before, like consistency and predictability. That's what I want in my code. I don't want 3 different ways to do the same thing. That's basically it. So, yeah. And once again, this is a potential point of failure for the RFC. So, yeah. Although the code above resembles short closure syntax, the set operator will still return void, even if using the shorthand syntax above. That is, the following is an example of legal syntax. Yeah, okay. So you can combine... Oh yeah, you can use it in set hooks, because it doesn't really return anything. Which also makes it confusing, right? Yeah, I mean, still love the RFC, and I hope it passes. I'm just thinking aloud. All hooks operate in the scope of the object being modified. This might be give a question about the recursion. This might give an answer to the recursion question. That means they have access to all public, private, or protected methods of the object, as well as any public, private, or protected methods, including properties that may have their own property hooks. Accessing another property from within a hook does not bypass the hooks defined on that property. The most notable implication of this is that non-trivial hooks may subcall to an arbitrarily complex method if they wish. For example, oh yeah, sanitize phone. Okay, so this is possible. Cool. Note that field is only valid in the hook itself. Yeah, of course, that makes sense. Not in a subcalled method. That is, writing to field from within sanitize phone would just write to a local variable by that name, not the property. That, I mean, makes sense, right? Makes sense. So I mean, everyone their own opinion, and you can voice them in the comments. I wish I had voting rights, and I would probably vote yes, I guess. Despite not agreeing on everything. But yeah, I mean, what's the alternative, right? Okay, so we vote no. Everyone votes no on this RFC. Then it's back to 0. So another year or 2 where no progress is made in this regard. So no interface properties. We're still left with getters and setters that we have to implement. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. References. I don't want to look into references. You can read through that. Arrays, you can read through that as well. I want to go to default values. That might be interesting. Default values are supported on properties that have a backing store. I mean, this RFC will need some translation for userland, because no one knows what a backing store is. So when are default values supported? We don't know, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll experiment with it, and someone, maybe me, will write a blog post about it explaining it in userland terms. Default values are not supported on virtual properties, as there is no natural value for the default to be assigned to. Of note, the default value is assigned directly and not, by the way, I'm sorry for selecting so much, that's a bad habit, and not passed through the set hook. Okay, yeah. So a default value is assigned directly and does not go through here. Okay. All subsequent writes will go through the set hook. Okay. This is primarily to avoid confusion or questions about when exactly the set hook should run during object initialization, and is consistent with how Kotlin handles it as well. Yeah, makes sense. Default values are listed before the hook block. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. Inheritance. A child class might define or redefine individual hooks on a property by redefining the property and just the hooks it wishes to override. The type and visibility of the property are subject to their own rules independently of this RFC. A child class may also add hooks to a property that had none. Okay. The type and visibility of the property are subject to their own rules Yeah, so inheritance basically stays the same, I guess, and a child class may add hooks to a property that had none. What happens if it was already defined? Each hook overrides parent implementations independently of each other. Makes sense, makes sense. If a child class adds a hook, any default set on the property is removed. So if a child class adds a get hook, the set hook of the property is removed, the parent set hook. That is consistent with how inheritance works already. If a property is redeclared in a child, its default is removed and must be reassigned. Okay. Okay. If it's consistent, it's something that I mean, first of all, redefining properties doesn't happen all that often. Except, of course, now we have interfaces, but they don't have an implementation for get and set, so that's fine. Okay. Accessing parent hooks. A hook in a child class may access the parent's class hook. It's overriding by using the parent prop keyword. What? Oh yeah, okay, no. Yeah, the parent and then the concrete name. If not accessed this way, the parent class hook is ignored. Yes, this behavior is consistent with how all methods work. This also offers a way to access the parent's class's storage, if any. That is, the above example could be rewritten. Hang on, so x and y, positive point, I get that, it should be positive. If it's larger, then we can say parent x. Oh yeah, we're calling the set hook. We're calling the set hook. Why not this? Does this work? Wait, let's first try it out with, so point equals new positive point 1 and 2. Then we var dump px. This might not work yet in this branch. I mean, this is work in progress, so you can't expect everything to work. Yeah, okay. This is weird. Overriding only a get hook. I'm sorry, I have to drink a bit. Overriding only a get hook could be like this. Get, yes. Yeah, here we are again. Hooks may not access any other hook. Okay, I think I understand why we need this, because no, I don't understand. Final hooks. Hooks may also be declared final, in which case they may not be overridden. Okay, at this point, I think... hang on, there's no constructor in positive point. No, but there shouldn't be, because... no, I understand. Yeah. So I should do this. Px equals 1. Too small. No. Return. Okay. Okay, so, okay. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so does this work? What happens now? Yeah, access to undeclared static right? So I guess like set here is just, it has something to do with the property not existing yet, right? Because okay. Hooks may be declared final. Let's just move on. Interfaces. A key goal from sorry. A key goal for property hooks is to obviate the need for getter-setter methods. Yes. While straightforward for classes, many value objects also conform to an interface. Yes, this is what we want. That interface therefore also needs to be able to specify what properties it includes. This RFC therefore also adds the ability for interfaces to declare public properties asymmetrically. An implementing class may provide a property via a normal property or hooks. Okay, so I really like this feature. They're saying that this is possible as well, so without the get set, right? And in this case, an implementing class must have a publicly readable property, but whether it's or not it's publicly settable is unrestricted. Yeah. An implementation class must have a publicly writable property, whether it's publicly readable is unrestricted. An implementation class must have a property that is both publicly readable and writable. This class implements all three properties as traditional unhooked properties. That's entirely valid. This is actually what I want. And this class implements everything. Okay. No, I'm saying this is what I want, but of course this is good as well. But if we would have this for read-only classes, it will already be super useful, basically. Then we didn't have to write this, right? For read-only properties. Just putting it out there. Okay, interfaces are only concerned with public access, so the presence of non-public properties is both unaffected by an interface and cannot satisfy an interface. This is the same relationship as for methods. Really? Can you? Oh yeah. We have deliberately chosen to not support public string both. Hang on. Public string both in interfaces without specifying the required hooks. Okay, abstract properties, property type variants, property magic constants, interaction with traits. Ooh, properties in traits may declare hooks just like any other property. However, as with normal properties, there is no conflict resolution mechanism provided. That's fine. Okay, interaction with isset and unset. This is interesting because there might be an unset hook in the future and an isset hook in the future as well. Anyway, we'll continue. Interaction with, oh, this one is interesting as well. Constructor property promotion, right? As of PHP 8, properties may be declared in line with the constructor. That creates an interesting potential for complexity if the property also includes hooks, as the hooks may be arbitrarily complex and therefore long, leading to potential tens of lines of code technically within the constructor's method signature. Yes, that's a valid concern. On the other hand, we expect the use of the set hook for validation to be fairly popular, including validation on promoted properties. Making them incompatible would undercut the value of both tremendously. That's right, yeah. After much consideration, the authors have opted to allow hooks to be implemented within constructor property promotion. While pathological examples could certainly be shown, we anticipate in practice that the impact will be far less. In particular, the shorthand version of hook bodies and the ability to call out to private methods if they get complicated. Yeah, that's a good point. You can call other methods if your hook is becoming too large. That's a good point. Obviate the concern about I stop reading there. For example, we predict the following to be the extent of most combinations of hook and promotion. Yeah, probably. Yeah, and otherwise you can call a function here instead of ooh. You could call this and then call a function, which is, all things considered, not too bad for the level of power it gives. Yeah. Yeah. Serialization we're gonna skip. Reflection we're gonna skip. Attributes. Is there anything? Hook implementations are internally implemented as methods. That means hooks may accept method-targeted attributes. They may be accessed via reflection in the usual way once the reflection method object. So hang on a second. You can add attributes to get and set. You can get a hook and then get attributes. Interesting, yeah. Hook parameters may also accept parameter-targeted attributes. Yeah, okay. Okay. The frequently asked questions. Why isn't asymmetric visibility included? We're not going in that rabbit hole. Why do set hooks not return the value to set? Exactly, that was a question asked here as well. Let's read it. An alternative implementation would be to have a set hook return a value, and that value would be what is assigned. While the seemingly obvious answer, it is not as robust as the approach described here. Primarily, that is because it disallows any action after the assignment happening. Yes, only before actions were allowed, because once the value is returned, no further code in the hook executes. Some actions, however, will want to run after the assignment is confirmed. Change logging, for instance, shouldn't record until the change is confirmed and committed. I don't know. I think this is a bit far-fetched. Okay, technically this is possible. I don't think we should do that within property setters, especially because it's not reusable. And no, for other reasons as well. Set field equals x, and then we'll maybe let's do user and string email. I don't know, user extends point. Something like this. Set field equals value. And then we say this log email was changed, right? And the reason is that if you would just return value here, it should be the end, right? And if that value is used to set the actual value, then you had to do it like this, and that's not entirely correct. But I really doubt that we should do something like this. I really doubt that. In my mind, at least, this is not what this feature should be used for, but maybe I'm wrong. Change logging, for instance, shouldn't record until the change is confirmed and committed. That's because the assignment itself still might fail. Okay, yeah. For that reason, we need a way to assign and confirm the property while still allowing the code to run after. Yeah. Ooh, Swift adds more hooks than before did set. However, at this design, yeah, okay. If this is the alternative, then what we have now in this proposal is better. But you know, Nikita once made an RFC for type properties, which was a big one, and he deliberately omitted. He just said for some stuff he said we're not gonna do that. And it's just going to be the way it is. And it's not going to cover all cases. There might be some limitations to this feature, but at least the feature is like comprehensible and it's not too much. Nikita made other RFCs, but like type properties come to mind, especially with I think type variance was something like during inheritance. Nikita said that technically we can do something with reads and not with writes, or the other way around. We can allow more, I think, contravariant type checking, but we're not going to do it because it would make it too complex. We're just going to keep type properties are invariant, and that's it. And technically there are other rules that we could apply, but it's going to make it too complex. And that's kind of what I feel with this as well. Especially because now we need like this one or two magic values for something that in the first place I don't think this feature should be used for. Why the field magic value? This is primarily for convenience, as field is shorter to type and more consistent. No, I don't agree with this. It also makes common code easier to copy paste, which this actually, it doesn't mention it explicitly, but this highlights a very important issue with this. You cannot reuse these setters and getters. You can make abstract classes or traits, but they are tied to the property, right? So the reason here is that if you have field and value, field equals value, right? And if you copy this over to another class, let's actually do it like this. I don't know. Let's do it. Title and say UC first to have a proper example here. So when we copy this over because we need this functionality somewhere else, then we don't have to change the name. Or then we don't have to change this. But this highlights like a serious deficiency with all of this. This in itself can't be reused. Remember how at the start of the stream I talked about types? That wouldn't really solve the issue for setters, though. Well, maybe a bit. I don't know. No, but this is not really a critique, but it's just, yeah, it's something we shouldn't take lightly. And I really foresee like people copying over setters all over the place for specific properties. So, and Kotlin does the same, yeah. Additionally, using a generic variable name will almost certainly be necessary for reusable hooks. Look, future scope, that's what we are interested in. Backwards incompatible. There is one subtle break due to accessing parent property hooks. Specifically in this code, yeah. This prop would resolve to C, and then C get method would be called with this RFC if the method name is the same as the hook. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, so C and then get would be called, and then this would be called instead. That's weird. The value, that's a very subtle break. I don't think that's really something to worry about. So set and unset hooks might be interesting as well. PHP support magic methods for them. While it is tempting to allow those as hooks as well, the authors feel their use is limited. They have been therefore omitted, which is a good thing for this RFC. However, it is possible to reintroduce them in a future RFC should valid use cases be shown. And reusable hooks. Swift has the ability to declare hook packages that can be applied to multiple properties, even in separate classes. Swift hook packages, what do they look like? Swift hooks package. I don't know Swift, so no, I don't know. So metamorphically speaking is needing to run. Thanks for being here. We're almost done. That further helps reduce boilerplate without having to pack even more logic into the type system. I was arguing for the opposite thing, but in a sense, it does for hooks what PHP trade do for methods and properties. While that is potentially useful, it will be a whole big feature. True, and it's good that it's not included. Okay, that's the RFC. We made it to the end. How do I feel about it? I think so. There are a couple of features I really want, especially interface properties, and like the shorthand for properties, and getting rid of these unnecessary getters and setters is awesome. I feel like the RFC is trying to do too much, and maybe it might still get adjusted a little bit, especially the shorthands. Nah, we don't do this. I feel just one syntax, and yeah, that should be enough. Please, I can foresee people voting no because of these options here. It makes it more complex for end users. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. And like the get and set stuff, this is weird. Maybe we need to get used to it. And I feel like you can't write just parent val because of technical limitations, which is unfortunate. But if it's needed, then okay, let's do it. Because I guess you need a way. Actually, what I would do here is what Nikita did with type properties, and just make inheritance more strict, or not supported at all. But yeah, that's probably too narrow-minded of me, because I don't use inheritance all that much anymore. So yeah, let's quickly run through the comments here. Inir actually loves the concept. I just think they should revisit the approach, mainly the syntax and complexity. A PHP dev shouldn't feel lost navigating it. That's, yeah, I understand that. About backing values, I interpret it that a property without a backing store is one that has some real stored value instead of a purely computed value. Yeah, indeed. But it's just, it's a technical term that people don't really know about in userland, I feel. And metamorphically speaking also said that behavior shouldn't be mixed in property hooks, like the logging, change logging. I agree with that. And why not have both? Why not have one? I mean, I just gave a whole rant about having one option, so I would say I wouldn't support both. And Stefan is saying that if you have worked with C#, you will like this RFC. I haven't worked with C# and I like the RFC. So in overall, I would probably, if I had voting rights, I would probably vote yes, despite some limitations, because I think overall it's better to have this in PHP than not. And I would, like in my code, I would make sure that some features aren't used. That's it. And Hook can be a good addition to Tempest ORM. Yeah, definitely. Would be super cool. So Tempest actually has like these casters now on attributes, which I still think are better because they are reusable. Like, for example, you can, let's get a quick caster. This is reusable. Let's actually, so for example, whenever you have the ID type here, it gets a value that's not an ID, Tempest will try to cast it to an ID using this class. This is reusable. You can just put it everywhere. Let's actually do a search here. ID, it's in, I never use it. That's not I do use it, I think. Oh, no, because it's the type is ID. And this is what I mean with it's included in the type, right? Public ID, private ID, I don't know. It's used in base model, I guess. Oh no, that's renamed. I don't know what it's renamed to. Hang on. Is model. Yeah, it's nullable, of course. So whenever a value is passed in here, the type includes the information needed to convert an integer, a string, a UID, to convert that to this type. But this can only happen because because there's a layer in between, right? Tempest is mapping data from and to models or other kinds of classes. And you don't have that in PHP. You don't have that middle layer. So, but this is much more reusable, like with the caster here. Anyway, wasn't I showing my screen? Dude. ID caster. Here it is. So that just so many people are just listening to this stream and not watching, which is totally fine. Let me show that again. There's this type, this ID here. It's used here, and Tempest knows it should cast whatever value it gets to this ID object, because there's this caster in between, and that's because of this attribute. Anyway, thanks for not watching, everyone, and just listening. I appreciate it. We're gonna conclude here. It's a super interesting RFC, and I think I would vote yes if I had voting rights. And it will benefit PHP. So yeah, definitely leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Leave a like as well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.